Welcome in. The dominoes are falling. Let's go.
The dominoes? What do you mean, man?
The first big trade of the offseason has happened.
Yes. All right. Thanks for the explanation. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot.
It's analogies, man. Come on, get up to speed.
Anatomy? What?
Analogies. Is this your first time?
Speaking? Yes, clearly.
Okay, well, then we're clearly doing this one on the fly then. Welcome to the Phase Mass Podcast. John Alsace, Nick Payne. We said we'd have off-season content for you, and the NFL has delivered for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was a choice between talking about one of the biggest trades I've ever seen in recent memory, or the Ravens signing Nick Boyle to an extension to a year.
I mean, big kudos to Nick Boyle. Obviously, the Ravens think he's a big part of what they want to do on offense, but that's about all I have to say about that. Some big news broke last night. Matthew Stafford, which we had telegraphed this a little bit, not the location, but we knew he was getting traded. It was just a matter of where. Stafford heads west to the LA Rams in a blockbuster deal that involves multiple first-round picks, and the Lions in return receive Jared Goff. So, this is a huge trade. This shakes up multiple teams and could set the precedent for deals moving forward this offseason, as there's lots of speculation that many quarterbacks, could be switching teams. So, we've already got two. John, I think the focus today, we all know where it should be. It's about this new Rams offense and their new signal caller. I think for fantasy purposes, this is absolutely an offense that is now worth targeting. I mean, they obviously have good weapons. This was never going to be an offense that you shy away from, even if Jared Goff was their starter. But now there are some significant pieces on this offense that get a boost. Starting with Stafford. John, I think it's fair to say we're going to be pushing him hard as a quarterback target.
Oh,
Agree?
Dude, look, Stafford, we all know with the Lions, he just had to put the offense on his shoulders, and it was him carrying the team year in, year out, ever since he came into the league in 2009. And I mean, he's played with one 1,000-yard rusher in Reggie Bush in 2013, and one defensive unit that ranked top 10 in scoring. And he's going to a coach that coached the guy that just got traded in the trade, Jared Goff, to a Super Bowl, when we know he's not a top of the level
not an upper echelon
quarterback.
Starter.
You know what I mean? And in three different years, that combination had a top 10 ground attack
and multiple top 10 defenses.
Yeah.
This is a good team. This is a good unit overall. Stafford is he's stepping into a situation for the first time in his career where his team is legitimate contenders.
Exactly. I mean, it's hard to think of a better landing spot for a guy like Stafford. Who's ready-made and just needs to come to a team that is ready-made. Yeah,
the pieces are in place for him on offense. You can make the argument that the Rams still have work to do along the offensive line. It's not the strongest unit in the league, but the personnel that they do have is far and away the deepest that he's ever had to work with. Now, he did get the opportunity to play with one of the best receivers of all time in Calvin Johnson in Detroit, but outside of Calvin Johnson, most of those teams, most of those personnel in general were pretty subpar. And on top of stepping into a situation where the personnel is deep, to your point about McVay, these offenses outside of last year, they really took a nosedive last year, and that was when the Rams realized they had a problem at quarterback. And then they addressed it. But outside of 2020, the Rams have been a top 10 team by every advanced metric on offense since McVay has joined the team. So Stafford is coming to a quarterback-friendly offense with upper echelon talent across the board. He is going to be one of the quarterbacks that we will assuredly be hammering as a target in the middle rounds of every single fantasy draft. Redraft, best ball, keeper, whatever have you. Stafford will be pushed hard on this podcast.
Yeah, another guy that I gotta say, I am really glad I have him on a dynasty roster, and I'm gonna be looking for him in every redraft league that I'm gonna be in this year, and that's Robert Woods.
Yep.
He's perennially undervalued. I don't know what people are gonna think of him because he's not your prototypical number one, but McVay likes him as the number one on this team. It's clear. In the snaps that he gives Robert Woods with Jared, or has given Robert Woods with Jared Goff, and the letting go of guys like Brandon Cooks because they knew what they had in Woods, and to a lesser extent Kupp and Higbee. We've seen Matt Stafford produce with all-time great talent. We've seen him produce with middling talent. This is going to be on just with what he's surrounded by, the best group he's ever played with.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on Woods. Woods, I would not consider like a deep threat. He's very strong in the intermediate game, but also to his credit, he never really had a quarterback that was an efficient deep ball thrower. Matthew Stafford, by the numbers, is a significantly better deep ball passer than Jared Goff is. Jared Goff is more of a quarterback who plays the intermediate game by nature. Stafford has the arm. So I think you'll see more deep routes run. Maybe I don't know if we'll see all these go routes from a guy like Robert Woods, but I think his average depth of target is about to go up.
But we also saw Matt Stafford produce a wide receiver one in Golden Tate for years, who was largely an intermediate guy who got it done and then produced after the catch. And that was after, that was for years. That was their offense.
Yeah. So I think that's a vote of confidence for Cooper Kupp.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they both can succeed here. That's what I think you could have like a dual Golden Tate type situation. I don't think we're going to have a deep threat on this team unless, Van Jefferson develops into that or Josh Reynolds develops into that.
Yeah.
Or they just serve that role, which they could. But I think largely out of necessity because of Jared Goff's deficiencies, they've basically got two guys who run intermediate routes really well. They don't have a deep threat. But I think Matt Stafford can maximize both of these guys' upside, even if it is locked into that intermediate level, because he's that good of a quarterback. So I'm just pushing them all a little bit.
Yeah.
I think if Cooper Kupp was a boomer bust wide receiver 2, I think he's less boomer bust.
No, there should be more stability this year. I think we're looking at an offense that's going to be highly efficient.
Yep.
So the pass catchers, I think this helps the wide receivers, the tight ends. First of all, I think Gerald Everett is going to walk. I don't think he's coming back with the Rams. I think the Rams are happy with Higbee, but also are we feeling as if maybe this is a downgrade for Higbee because there's only so much intermediate work to go around, and Stafford has the arm where I would think the Rams are going to want to implement more plays where they take more shots. Unless
McVay just unlocks something in Higbee to where he can get those and he can start catching long balls like Kittle or something. I just don't see a way to where the tight ends on this team are going to be relevant because yes, the wide receivers are going to most likely dominate them in the middle of the field. And Stafford was never a guy who targeted tight ends too much anyway. Hawkinson's success was a little bit of an anomaly. And I think that was born out of them not having Kenny Golladay for the majority of the season last season. He only played 4 games last season. So they had Marvin Jones and Hawkinson, and I think that led to Hawkinson's success. And I think we're going to see that maximized this year, and we'll get into that. We'll get into him later. But yeah, I just don't see Matt Stafford offenses historically using the tight ends and giving them much fantasy production. We had guys like Eric Ebron and Brandon Pettigrew in there, and it's just like bleh.
Yeah, those situations didn't work out.
No,
I think this is a situation where the receivers are going to be heavily supported, and we might see Higbee take a step back. He'll still be viable, but I'm not sure he will have the week-to-week viability where we will be suggesting drafting him. So we're in agreement there. Now, the guy who I don't think his stock was going to go up or down regardless because his upside is huge, but I love Cam Akers this year, but I love him even more now just because it's a quarterback upgrade. Like but you can't tell me that in any way, shape, or form that Stafford isn't an upgrade in any way you want to look at it over Goff, and that helps the run game. I think Akers has already flashed, and I think he's going to remain a strong second-round value in redraft. I'm all in. I'm all in on this Rams offense up and down the board, and I think the increased efficiency, one, keeps the Rams on the field, so it increases opportunities. But two, with Goff, there was less respect that defense needed to pay to the quarterback. With Stafford, that changes, and I think that helps Akers.
Cam Akers, I think that we're gonna see them explore what he can do in the pass game, and I think that only boosts his value. And I think Henderson is a solid handcuff moving into the season as a guy that on a team. I mean, he's proven that he can do it for stretches, and there are worse offenses to invest in right now.
I agree, and I think Henderson actually has some viable standalone value.
Yeah.
I think he's a talented guy. Again, he continues to be an analytics darling. Now, Akers passes the eye test, and by every metric looks to be the superior player. But Henderson was pretty solid at the start of the season and when he got the opportunity. I personally think he's going to be a solid value because he missed a lot of time at the end of the season, and people are going to have recency bias. Rightfully so for Akers. If you want to spend a second-round pick on him, you'll get no arguments from me there. Quite the opposite. But as far as Henderson goes, I expect his value to plummet because of the time that he missed coinciding with Akers' ascent. I think Henderson is actually going to go a little underlooked. And yeah, I have no problem, especially in best balls, taking a complimentary running back in what I think is going to be a good offense.
Oh yeah, I mean 100%. I couldn't agree with
Henderson's definitely got some good value. So I think outside of Higbee, we're pretty in lockstep. Like you said, there are worse offenses to invest in. One of those worse offenses to invest in is the other team on the other side of this trade.
Oh yeah,
and that's the Lions.
Yeah.
We already kind of briefly touched on this, but John, what are your thoughts on Goff and this new landing spot?
Goff was at his best when he was playing with a bunch of offensive weapons who were in their primes, and
elite play
one of the
caller.
best running backs before he got knee arthritis that we had pretty much ever seen in the league. On a team with an O-line that was pretty incredible before most of those guys retired. The Lions have pretty much none of that outside of a solid O-line. Last year, Pro Football Focus rated them throughout the whole year of 2020 as the 13th best offensive line unit.
It's not bad.
They're losing Marvin Jones, Kenny Golladay on offense. So they have DeAndre Swift, Hawkinson, and then Quintez Cephas. And that's
Cephas.
it. That's it. So like I don't know, man. If it took pretty much all pro talent, all-star talent guys, 3 of them at the wide receiver position and 1 at the running back, and a great O-line for Jared Goff to be a quarterback 1.
Or just viable.
Right. We're not going to get that here. Period. You can just put up a bunch of garbage time stats.
Could be.
If he stays healthy. Again, depends on what they have at wide receiver. But outside of DeAndre Swift and outside of Hawkinson, who we mentioned before, I wanted to talk about a little bit, Nick, and I want you to have the first word here on Hawkinson because I know you feel the same way I do.
Yeah. So I think he's easy top 5 potential. And I think given the lack of weapons and, again, We've already touched on Goff is more of a quarterback who uses the intermediate game. This could be Hawk's year to eat. I think he's an easy top 5 tight end with top 3 upside. So that means he's going to have to outperform the likes of Darren Waller or Mark Andrews, but I think he's going to see the volume from weeks 1 to week 16 this year for that to happen. Now, the one potential drawback to this scenario playing out is, John, my bold prediction is Jared Goff does not last the year as the Lions starter. So the Lions have the 7th pick. And again, they did not get a 2021 first in the deal for Stafford. They have future firsts. So they don't really have an option or an opportunity to move up if they were interested in, say, Zach Wilson or Justin Fields. But they can still get a guy like, say, Trey Lance, if he's a guy that they like, at 7. If that's the route that they go, that quarterback, whoever they pick at 7, is going to play this year. Because the Lions are not going to be good, and we already know what Jared Goff is. He is, at best, a quality game manager. I think that's fair to say. That's probably, honestly, that might be giving a little too much love to Goff because the Rams just won a playoff game this year with John Wofford getting the start. He didn't finish the game. Goff came in, but
that was due to him having an injury himself.
He had the thumb injury, I understand, but he was still able to come in and throw the ball and play in the game. So The Rams still went into that week in a playoff game and decided Wofford was their better option. And I understand he was hurt.
I did read that going into the 2021 season, there was going to be an open quarterback competition between John Wofford and Jared Goff before this trade went off.
So what does that tell you? And he just signed a massive contract. So again, what does that tell you? The Rams realized that they had made a mistake at the quarterback position, and they did something about it. Now that mistake, sorry, Goff, is on the Lions, a significantly worse team. I think this team, to your point, they have not been a well-run organization in the past, but this move tells me that they may finally be shifting to a long-term focus, and that tells me that Jared Goff is a serious candidate to get benched this year, regardless of performance, because I think the Lions are going to stink. And if they take a quarterback high, he's going to play. Now, does that automatically crush the value of a guy like TJ Hawkinson? No. Young quarterbacks he's still the obvious starter at tight end and is clearly one of their elite options, one of their only options in the pass catching game. Young tight ends typically look for that big target. It's a safety blanket. But Hawks' chances of becoming, that top 3 tight end year over year will take a hit if Goff doesn't play the whole year, which I think is, I'll say, greater than 50% chance of happening. That being said, as long as Goff is in there, Hawkinson's going to eat.
Yeah, I just think there's no way they aren't forced to utilize Hawkinson every game.
They have to.
Because look, there were games at the beginning of the season and in the middle of the season where Quintus Cephas was targeted 10 times. The efficiency wasn't there.
No, he was a rookie.
He was a rookie, and yes, but he wasn't drafted high.
Regardless, they're going to give him as long of a look as they possibly can.
Because he's the only guy there.
Yeah, but he's a young guy. They're going to give him as long of a shot as they can.
But I'm saying I don't think that he has the talent. From watching what he did last season, with the opportunities that he was given, because they really had Marvin Jones and nobody else.
It was a 5th round pick.
Yeah, he wasn't a guy that exploded like Gabriel Davis or something. This guy didn't, to me, look super special. And yes, he was young. He was 22, and there's room to grow and all that.
There's absolutely room to grow. I like him as let's put it this way, best ball.
I think it lends more to Hawkinson really being that guy, because he's really the only. I think he's going to be the only guy that Goff is really going to trust or be able to trust in and out.
I think Hawk has his ADP right now, and again, it's the end of January, so we've got a ways to go. But right now, Hawks ADP is around the 70 to 75 range. So 7th round value for a tight end who we think has top 3 upside. I'm hammering that as many times as I can. As far as Cephas, his ADP is around 200, so he's free. You don't have to spend up for him at all if you want to take a flyer on a guy who, again, should get every opportunity.
Okay, well, speaking to that, he's way undervalued.
I think he might be, yeah. Because if anything else, he's a starter.
Think he's super talented, so I think talent will win if we're talking about who we think is going to be really the real number one on this offense. I think it's going to be Hawkinson. I think this is going to be a tight end driven offense, and because I think Hawkinson is that good. But Quintus Cephas is going to get targets.
Yeah, out of necessity.
Yeah, I think his numbers are going to look a whole lot better next year because I think at worst he's going to be their number 2 wide receiver, and he might end up being forced into a number 1 role depending on how their draft works out.
If they're smart, they will wait on wide receiver, which means a guy like Cephas has every opportunity. The final piece in this offense, DeAndre Swift. I know, John, we already talked about what will the Detroit Lions look like, and we had a previous pod about this. I think this move, I'm not scared. I'm not shying away from him. I don't feel any worse about Swift. I don't know about you. I still feel like he's got an absolutely great opportunity to return top 15 overall running back production this year. I think this move doesn't hurt him.
No, again, like I said, the Detroit Lions have a ranked 13 by Pro Football Focus offensive line. So their O-line is good. He shouldn't be running into brick walls every game.
Nope.
And while his offense might not be in an offense that's going to spread it out all over the field. I think they can transition to a more run first attack, and I think by necessity, but AP is not going to be there, so there's going to be a lot more goal line looks that are going to be available to a guy like DeAndre Swift, and Jared Goff was at his best when he was throwing to his running backs.
Yep. Dumping it
off. He got
off
to the Super Bowl by dumping it off to Todd Gurley. And I think that DeAndre Swift can be just as good as that guy was. I mean, that he also played in a much better offense. So there's that. But as far as what he can give you play in, play out, I think DeAndre Swift could be right up there, depending on how he's used by Goff and in this offense. And considering the dearth of weapons there, I think it could be a possibility.
Yeah, I think Swift maintains his high upside. I think this is a Lions team that is not looking to contend in 2021, especially because they didn't get those first round picks until years down the line. So what does that tell me? They're going to try to establish the run. And Swift is going to get every opportunity. I know I said this previously, I think he's looking at a potential James Robinson type of workload that Robinson had in Jacksonville in 2020. The Lions are going to pound the rock, especially if the quarterback struggles. And we have no reason to sit here and say for sure that Goff is going to get through the season looking like a viable or upper echelon quarterback. So,
did you see Dan Campbell's entrance interviews?
Oh yeah, Jared Goff is not a knee biter. Let's get one
DeAndre
thing
Swift
clear.
Might be DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, Swift might be a knee biter.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think his upside is massive. I think I still like a guy like Akers more just because of the better offense, but don't be shy when it comes to Swift. His ADP is going to be high. And there's a reason for that. I think he's looking at a massive workload. I think the talent level is undeniable. I think I might be willing to say, not just top 15. He could be looking at top 12, lock in RB1 for the year.
Say so.
I think the potential is absolutely there.
Yep.
So it could be a bad offense. The one concern you may have there is if the Lions are trailing a lot or if they're just not able to sustain drives. But now we're just talking about nitty-gritty nitpicking. I think Swift's upside is through the roof. I like this Rams offense as a whole. I think Stafford is going to be one of, if not the quarterback that we push the hardest relative to value. And TJ Hawkinson at tight end has top 3 upside.